How does Tinder really work? How do women really use Tinder? What do women really respond to? How many women actually use online dating? Well, as many of my regular watchers know, I like to spend a lot of my time looking for scientific data to answer these questions as best as humanly possible. And today I want to present to you a culmination of a couple of years worth of searching for data on Tinder usage patterns that I've found from around the world, and I'm going to show them to you today. Today is going to be really data heavy, and so if you like numbers and statistics and metrics, this is the video for you. This is where I get a lot of, when you want to know why I believe the things that I believe about Tinder and online dating apps and the way that they work, this is a big snapshot into the data that I'm using to form those opinions. So are you ready to dive deep into the numbers of Tinder and online dating? Keep watching to watch more. So before I dive into these numbers, I want to say a couple of things. First of all, there is a lot of ways in which statistics can be misleading, and there's also a lot of ways in which statistics can be taken in a way that skew things in a direction that doesn't seem to make sense. Now, I'm going to point these out for you as I go, because not all the statistics I'm going to show you, I believe, display the whole picture. So I'm going to do as much as I can to say these ones seem reliable, these ones seem a little shifty for these reasons. I'm going to talk through everything because I want to help you guys understand too that just because you see a nice graph doesn't mean you should trust it 100%, even if the data comes from an originally reliable source. So let's get in. Lots of interesting things to cover, and we'll get started with this one. So first of all, we're going to be looking at some basic usage statistics. This one was supplied by Global Web Index, and they show that in the United States, 20% of men have used Tinder, and only 10% of women, at a time, I should say. They show that the age bracket is 35% for 18 to 24. So 35% of users on Tinder are 18 to 24. 25% a quarter are 25 to 34. 20% a fifth, 35 to 44. And then it drops off markedly once we get into the 45 plus age bracket. They show household incomes too, but I think those are less interesting to me. Of course, the majority of the users are urban rather than rural environment. If we want to split this up by gender, we can see that the average male is slightly older, around the 24 years old versus about the 23, 22 for women. This shouldn't be a surprise in general with dating trends. Men tend to always be older than women when dating, but it's not a huge marked difference. And you will see too a larger number of women who are in the 30 plus age bracket than there are men in the 30 plus age bracket, which is also interesting to note. If you yourself are over 30, 35 and actually want to date women over 30 as well, this is actually a really good marketplace for you because the competition is far lower for you than it would be in the younger age bracket. Going on, let's have a look and see what how dating app users are distributed around the United States. I think this is an interesting one. Now, I just want to clarify how you should read this. It's the horizontals in this graph add up to 100%. So it's not that, if you can see here in the south of the United States, Black People Meet has 69.7%. That isn't to say 69.7% of online daters in the south use Black People Meet, just that 69.7% of Black People Meet users live in the south. That's really what that means. So if we have a look, it shouldn't surprise you that in the south, of course, we've got a high number of users of Black People Meet. Then we also have a high number of, like the religious dating sites, your eHarmonies, and your, where are we? There are a couple of other religious sites. Oh, not on this one. I thought they were, my bad. But yes, okay, so you can see here anyway that you've got those trends. You can see Clover seems to be quite popular as well in the south. Tinder does okay. Plenty of Fish does better. Proportionally. Coffee Meets Bagel is massive in the West for reasons I'm not 100% sure about, but it's huge in the West, whereas apps like Bumble and Happen are much more popular in the Northeast. So if you live in these countries, you can feel free to pause here and have a look more closely, but I thought that was at least a little bit interesting for data. Going on, I think this one is more interesting than the previous app, and that is which apps have the most users aged 18 to 29. This is very useful because this tells you, depending on what your age bracket is, what apps are going to have the highest proportion of women or of users that you can meet in your age bracket, right? What apps are popular with that ages. So, for example, if you're over 50, there is really very little good going on Hinge, right? Very little good going on Bumble or Tinder as well. However, Christian Mingle is going to be popular. Zoosk, Black People Meet, First Met is hugely popular. By the way, these stats are in the United States, so this may be slightly different overseas. If you're 30 to 49, you're going to get great results on Plenty of Fish, on Coffee Meets Bagel, on Hinge. Now, I should also note that men and women tend to flock to different apps at different age brackets. So if you're 30 to 49, I would still recommend, well, if you're 30 to 40, I'd still recommend Tinder and Bumble and things. Once you get over 40, I'd switch over and follow what this graph says. So I'd rather that there was more fine-grained detail on the age brackets, but this study didn't provide that, unfortunately. So yeah, if you're 18 to 29, it should be no surprise. Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, Happen, right? All these apps are killing it for the younger age brackets. No surprises there based on the data we've already seen. Now let's have a little bit of a look more at a worldwide breakdown of which apps are being used a lot. If we have a look here in Europe, first of all, you can see that it's pretty much a big tie between Tinder and Badoo. With Tinder being big, like the most popular in the Ireland, UK, Norway, Netherlands, Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, Greece, Belgium, all these countries kill it on Tinder. Badoo is far more popular in Portugal, Spain, Poland, Czech Republic, Ukraine, Romania. Now, what's interesting, by the way, is you're about to see that lower socioeconomic countries on average flock to Badoo. I'm not 100% sure why. I don't exactly know why that is. If someone knows or if they've got a theory, I'd love to know. Also, by the way, in Switzerland, Austria, and Germany, I did say that wrongly. Switzerland isn't a Tinder country. It uses Lovoo. Now, I'm not sure about that app. Maybe it's a primarily a Germanic app. I've never come across it before. If you know what it is, let me know. And Russia is big on Frim, and you'll see later Frim is kind of big in a few other Eastern countries as well. If we go down to North America, this probably shouldn't surprise you. We'll see that same trend of Tinder being big in Canada and US, but once we enter the lower socioeconomic countries, Mexico, Badoo is big. Then if we flip down into South America, now we don't have a ton of data points in South America, but again, Colombia, Brazil, Chile, Argentina, all Badoo followers, really big. Interesting, isn't it? If we jump into the Asia region, we see a bit more diversity. We see Tinder being huge in Australia and New Zealand, which shouldn't be a surprise, by the way. I think Tinder is the biggest, Australia, where I'm from, is the biggest Tinder using country per capita in the world. Singapore, Philippines, India. So again, you can see India and Philippines are bucking that trend I said where you get the lower socioeconomic countries flocking towards Badoo. However, again, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand are loving their Badoo. Then we have Taiwan, which is big on iPair, Meet Your Match, which I haven't heard of. South Korea is Heartbeat, which I haven't heard of. Momo in China, and YYC in Japan. A lot of apps I haven't heard of that are big in specific countries. But if you're going, like traveling to those countries on a holiday, you're going to spend some time there. This is really worth paying attention to. If you live there, you probably know these apps already since they appear to be the most popular. Hopping down into the Middle East, what do we see? We see Badoo being big in Turkey, Kuwait, and UAE. Again, bucking that trend where I said with the lower socioeconomic, because Kuwait and UAE is, as far as I know, not so lower socioeconomic countries. Saudi Arabia uses Who's Here, which I'm unfamiliar with. Israel uses Tinder, which isn't a surprise because Israel, in the whole of the Middle East, as far as I know, is probably the most Western country there. And Egypt also uses Frim, much like Russia. If we jump across to Africa, we can see only 3 data points, which is kind of unfair because South Africa does comprise of quite a few countries, but all the ones they have here, Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa, all are big Badoo followers. I just want to interject halfway through here to let you guys know about a really exciting offer. My followers probably know that I have the School of Online Dating program, which is a really fantastic, comprehensive program where I show you how to create profiles that convert. I'm going to show you how to get more dates than you have time to go on. It's not as hard as you think. You just got to follow a few basic principles to creating a fantastic profile, writing really fantastic messages, and getting women off of those online dating sites and out into the real world. Right now, we've got coronavirus going on. I know a lot of guys are struggling financially, and I wanted to do something to help out. My offer works like this. If you sign up for the School of Online Dating program while the coronavirus stuff's going on and you complete it within 30 days, I will give you all of your money back. I'm not just going to give it away for free because I want you to be committed to getting the best results possible. And I know that if you get something for free, you usually don't value it. So I want you to pay for it, do all the hard work, and if you do that hard work, I'm going to give you your money back. I'm super excited to be offering that. I want to do something to help guys who really want to help themselves right now. Take advantage of the time when we're at home a lot more, have less to do, and are feeling a little bit unsocialized. So go ahead and click the link up here to check that out. Sign up right now for that money back guarantee offer. Why Tinder users say they're using Tinder. Now, let me read out the stats first, and then I'll have a bit of a comment on it. So we have about 23% saying they're looking for a hookup. We have about 4% saying they're looking for a relationship. We have 44% saying they're just looking for confidence-boosting procrastination, and we have about the 29% saying other reasons. Now, a couple of things I got to say. This is one of those graphs where you have to be very, very careful for a number of reasons. First of all, if you look at the top, it says that the survey responses gathered from What's Goodly poll from college students. And this is this happens a lot in science, where a lot of surveys and things are done with college students because they're done by college professors and college, people who go to college. So that's where they do their surveys. But that represents a very narrow slice of society. The other, so you should take this with a grain of salt with the validity of this. The other thing is what people say and what they do is very different. So, for example, the number of times women say to me on Tinder, "Oh, I'm really just here just for a bit of a laugh and have fun, just to kill some time." Like, women will say that to me, and then they'll go on a date with me, and then we'll go home together, is really, really high. So just because they say that's why they're there, it doesn't mean that they're not totally open for a hookup, or maybe secretly hoping for a relationship. So I think really the confidence boosting is the excuse a lot of women especially, but men and women give themselves for being on an online dating app so that they don't seem desperate. And so that is really hugely conflated, I believe, in my experience anyway. I know a lot of guys will say, no, most women just want attention. It's not my experience. It's very rare that I meet women who just want to talk and not meet. It's exceedingly rare, actually, like insanely rare. So if you've got a good profile, that just won't happen so much. So if I go on, I have shown this chart once before. It's by Augury, in 2017. They're a data collection company. And they find that in the United States, Plenty of Fish has the highest percentage of female users by a large margin. UK has 39.3% of Tinder users. France has 37.9% of Don't Do Mac. I don't think that's as popular an app as anymore. I believe that's gone downhill. Badoo is still alive and strong with a lot of female users, Italy and Spain. Obviously, it's not all Euro countries, but it's interesting to see because if you look here again, you've got the highest percentage of female users on Plenty of Fish, but the highest percentage of male users on Tinder. So it suggests a lot of male users could do better by switching apps. In a lot of these countries, you'll see that flick. Not so much in the UK. The male users in the UK know where it's at. France could be changing. Italy knows where it's at. And Spain is also pretty balanced. So it is interesting to see that sometimes you get women flocking to one app and men to the other. And sometimes you could benefit from knowing where all the women are at if they're not on the app that you're currently using a lot. Here we have two graphs that disagree with each other, and I want to show you that. So we have Augury here, which says that the ratio of men to women in Paris, Rome, Madrid, New York, and London, they're all about 3 or 4 men to each woman, sometimes as bad as 5, sometimes as good as 3. 2, sorry. This is almost 2? Is my maths right? Yes. Women to every man. 2 men to every woman. So you can see that men are greatly outnumbered. Women are greatly outnumbered by men. However, there is another set of data from an equally, I guess, respectable data source other than Augury, which is SurveyMonkey. And SurveyMonkey has found that the numbers are a little bit more favorable, with Christian Mingle having 58.6% women, Coffee Meets Bagel 57.3%, Tinder, which was the one that was appearing so poorly in the Augury study, showing 43.3%. So 2 to 1 roughly, or a bit worse than 2 to 1. So which do you believe? It's very hard to say. I know some guys were like, no, there's barely any real women online dating, blah, 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 blah. But again, once you create a really good profile, there seems to be more than enough women to go around. I know that from guys that I've worked with personally. So which do you trust? I don't know. But I do know that it's fair to say that, look, there are definitely more men than women on pretty much all dating apps. So the great majority of dating apps have way more men than women. That shouldn't be a surprise, but it's just backed up here in the numbers. Well, what about male and female Tinder usage intention? So if we have a look at this one here, we've got basically, I'm not sure what the metrics, it says 3.22. That's not clear here, but basically we can see that almost twice as many men than women are on there looking for one-night stands. More women than men, but not a huge amount more, are looking for chat. More men than women, but not a huge amount, are looking for casual dating. So this seems to be more closely related to what I'm experiencing in the real world. Slightly more women than men claim that they're there just to look at apps. And very close, but a roughly equal number are there to meet a partner. That's actually much closer to what I've experienced with Tinder usage, using fake female profiles as well as a whole bunch of male profiles that I use with my male clients. So I do like that one. I believe that's one. I just don't know how the data was collected, unfortunately. I haven't looked closely enough at it, but it's much more in line with what I've personally experienced. When it comes to statistics that you absolutely shouldn't trust, here is one of them. And this is a thing that I hear multiple times. It says, men have had more dating app one-night stands than women. And here we see claimed results, right? 9.2% of men versus 8.5 at 1. Between 2 and 10, 19.2%, more than double. Twice as many men said they've had between 2 and 10. About triple the number of men say they've had more than 10 one-night stands. Half the amount of men to women say they've had none, and 22% of men say, I prefer not to say. Now, the reason why this is hugely out of whack and ridiculously misleading is this. The number of men who have had one-night stands on dating apps should be equal, perfectly, to the average number of one-night stands women have had. Why? Because men are having those one-night stands with women, aren't they? They're not having them by themselves in a vacuum. So statistically, those numbers must line up, which shows really the problem with using data that relies on individual reporting, because men will tend to overestimate how many one-night stands they've had, women will tend to underestimate, and then you get massive flux in the data that's completely unreliable, so pay no attention to that. I just wanted to show you that because, statistically that doesn't work. Now here is an interesting one. Again, I like the data that this shows you. This is sort of the usage, how people say they use, or how men and women are using online dating apps. So look at this. 35% of men admit that they casually like most profiles. No women do that. So men literally, that means men are going on Tinder and just swiping, or online dating, just swiping. Randomly, anything they just casually like them, most of them. Women just don't do that. They're very picky with who they bother liking. I only like profiles I'm attracted to. 72% of men, that shouldn't be a surprise. 91%, so almost all women only like profiles they're attracted to. I adapt my selectivity based on how many matches I'm getting that day. Men are hugely adaptive. Women not so much. I adapt my selectivity based on what I'm looking for at the time. So notice that women do this a lot more, and I think this is big. What women are looking for can change. In 1 week, a woman can say, I'm really just looking for a relationship, and 2 weeks later, she's like, I'm looking for, something casual might be fun in the meantime. Women change. They're a lot more flexible with their stuff, in my experience, than men, and that's been a very interesting experience to me on Tinder. Sometimes women who are like, no, because I'm in an open relationship, who say, no, I don't want that, right? I don't want a guy who's in an open relationship. I want a relationship myself, will suddenly message me in a week's time and want a relationship. So women are a lot more flexible on that, and that's really interesting. It's borne out in the data, which I enjoy when something comes out in the data. Here is an interesting look on the interests that people talk about on Tinder. This shouldn't surprise you, really. Travel, work, their dog, music, outdoors, tattoo, books, movies, food, beer. All this stuff is highly talked about, whereas beach, ride, active, fitness stuff is less often mentioned. What becomes more interesting if we talk about how people talk about their bodies. I love this. So things that are pink are things that women only talk about. Things that are dark blue are things that men talk about. Pretty much, if you're talking about your body, you're a woman, statistically. If you're talking about your height, you're a man. If you're using the word 6 foot anyway, I find that really, really amusing and not at all, surprising. If we go on instead of body characteristics, we look at Tinder personalities, this is more interesting. Here are the words that men tend to use to describe themselves. Nerd, active, athletic, professional, ambitious, intelligent, spontaneous, adventurous, healthy. women tend to use the words shy, silly, awkward, outgoing, positive, vegetarian, sarcastic, sassy, bitch, blunt. So does this really teach you anything? No, but I thought it was fun to look at and see. This next graph, however, I believe is hugely important to see. So what are we seeing here? Well, we're seeing the difference between having just one picture in your profile or having 3 pictures. Now, I don't really care the impact that it has on women, but let's look at the impact it has on men. If you have one photo, over time, over hours, you're still getting 0 likes from women. If you have 3 pictures, your likes are steadily going up in time. Shouldn't be a surprise, but having multiple photos is really important. You don't really need more than about 6. It's kind of your maximal point. But yeah, having multiple photos is critically important. On the flip side of that is how important it is to have a bio. So what this graph is showing you is that if you're looking to match, if you're a man looking to match with men, the importance of having a bio is still there, but most of my viewers are straight. So let's switch across to the right-hand side, where of course straight men get far fewer matches than gay men. But you can see, look at that, look how few matches you're going to get compared to, it's about triple if you have a bio written. So when it says stock 1, 2, 3, they're different images, male images that we use just to collect more data. But how much of a difference it makes if you've got a written bio. So never put up a profile without a written bio, or women are just not going to match with you. As far as what not to have in your bio, women were asked what turns them off the most. And this is what they said. Shirtless was 15.4% of a turnoff. Partying photos, 14.1%. Posting with an animal which you don't like. So what that means is like hunting photos, fish, things like that. A group of people not clear which one you are is a huge turnoff at 33.3%. Staged and or forced photo headshots. That's an interesting one that came up. In my experience, your staged photos are a turnoff if you look uncomfortable, like you're not having fun in the photo. Then there can be a really big turnoff. Or if they're like blue steel, I look so cool, are a big turnoff. So I feel like there is muddied information in that category there, where it needs more fine-grained detail to tease out what the respondents are really talking about there. Humor is the way to the heart. With women being asked what turns them on most about guys, something that makes me laugh is the biggest. A simple hey, something flirty, have a look here, you can have a look for yourself. But yeah, this became interesting. A simple hey, why is that so interesting? But this info is much more useful when it's broken down into age bracket. So you can see that a simple hey is only useful with the age bracket 18 to 24. Not very useful with every other age bracket. Something that makes me laugh is almost the most important for every age bracket except for one, which is the 65 plus. Okay, but other than that, it's also the 25 to 34 who'd rather have a question or comment related to their profile. Which, funnily enough, is usually the second most important factor in every other age bracket, which is a question or comment related to the profile. So when you're messaging women, what should your first message be? Something that makes them laugh, or a question or comment about their profile. No surprise there. Which is, what percentage of Tinder users don't return the following week? Which is really going to show you what a high turnover rate online dating apps have. So 1 in 5 Tinder users won't come back next week. Same for Bumble and Coffee Meets Bagel and Lulu and OkCupid, right? It's a really high attrition rate. eHarmony has a massive attrition rate. It's the highest of all, which is surprising to me, but I think it's because people are looking for more long-term relationships. I'm not sure. I'd like to know why the eHarmony stats are so ridiculously high on that one. But nonetheless, it's a really high, and this is why I say to guys, if you have a really great conversation with a woman, you've got to get a number, because there's a 20% chance she won't be here next week and she won't ever be online again. And I think this happens to a lot of guys where they're having a good conversation with a woman and she stops replying on Tinder. Could be because she's just not on Tinder anymore. I think that happens a lot more than guys realize. And that is all the stats that I have to show you today. This has been one of my longer videos that I've ever done. I hope you found it interesting and not boring, but I am a statistics whore. If you'd like to find out more about where I got my stats from, you go ahead and check a link down in the comments below so you can check all of my sources and see what you think for yourself. For the rest, what have you learned? What's the most interesting thing you learned today? Let me know in the comments below. As always, if you've liked my video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click some of my other videos off to the side as well. And of course, take advantage of my School of Online Dating deal right now by clicking the link in the comments as well. I'm Damien. Have a fantastic week. Take care.